Hello, this is Lee on PublicLee Speaking, and this week I'll be reviewing the movie Jumper. Jumper is a movie about a guy who can teleport and the world he finds himself in. The protagonist, David, is a jumper. Jumpers can teleport to a place by visualization, so they need to have been there at least once, and have the unspoken power of being tougher physically so they can survive inaccurate jumps. David discovers this power at 15 when he falls to the ice of a frozen river in Michigan, and moments before he drowns, he jumps to the local library. He comes home to his drunken father, his mother having left them when he was 5, and when the cops come to tell his father that they think David is dead, having fallen under the ice, he teleports and runs away from home. David uses his powers as any teen would who ran away and was on their own, so he robs a bank. This brings him to the attention of a paramilitary group known as the Paladins. Paladins kill jumpers. They have this weird religious thing that only God can be all places at all times, which is not what jumpers do, but I've seen more done with less in the real world. One of my problems with the Paladins, as characters, is that they are way too brutal to exist in America. When they're hunting jumpers in Ecuador or Chechnya, their methods might be acceptable, but the way they treat law enforcement officers in Europe and America would bring the full might of that country's justice system down on them hard. Now, how does a proto-religious, quasi-military, extremist vigilante radical group hunt down people who can teleport across the globe on a whim? Well, they have these electric baton grapple gun things which can anchor a jumper to a location while sending a constant stream of 10,000 volts of electricity into their brains. The electricity messes with the jumper's ability to jump, while the anchoring makes it so that if they tried to jump, they'd have to take the whole building with them, which is impossible. I'm not going to spoil too much of the movie, as it is a decent film, but I do need to talk about the characters. David, the protagonist, is a dick, and the love interest is an idiot. A different kind of idiot. Yeah, that. The main character is a selfish jerk, and it shows. After David has grown up a bit and come into his powers, the movie shows David surfing channels until he gets to a news broadcast about these people caught in a flood that will die unless a miracle happens. David's response to a situation that is blatantly a hero's call, allowing him to use his powers to help people and show that he's a good person, he jumps to England to pick up chicks at a bar. Classy. David's unwillingness to help people, even when they are certain to die if he doesn't, sets him up as an unsympathetic protagonist, and reveals an unpleasant truth about human nature and the inner selfishness that can manifest when a person is given power, supernatural or otherwise. This is a very, very old idea. The earliest known example I can remember is Plato's story of the Ring of Gyges. In this story, a man is given a ring which turns him invisible. The man's response to being given this artifact? He kills the king, rapes the queen, and crowns himself ruler because, hey, I'm invisible. I admit that I cannot think of many legal uses for invisibility, but still. It is a commonly held belief that is many times true that when people are given power, they abuse it. There is a phrase that people use a lot. Power corrupts. But this is not true. This saying suggests that the person was good before they gained power, and the power somehow changed them. This is a comforting thought, because then if you liked the person before they got power, or abused power yourself, then you can blame the big evil power for their/your actions, instead of having to face the facts that the power didn't cause the corruption, but only brought it to light. Abraham Lincoln, in addition to rocking a sweet beard, was a very wise man, and once said, to test the strength of a man's character, give him hardship. To test its quality, give him power. There are those who have power, but never abuse it. This is not because they are somehow immune to the corrupting effects that power is supposed to have, but because their morals are internally driven. The topic of internally versus externally enforced morality is so big and thorny that I'll have to devote an entire larger issues video to it, but the gist is that there are two types of people: those who do the right thing because they will be punished otherwise, and those who do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Most people are the former, and when they have the power to, say, teleport away from their problems, they no longer have to play nice. The Paladins were most likely originally created to stop jumpers that abuse their powers to rob, rape, and murder, as we are told that both groups have existed since medieval times. Jumpers probably discovered their powers and immediately decided they didn't have to follow society's rules, as they could jump away as soon as the authorities caught up with them. The order has obviously become corrupted over time, as they no longer hunt jumpers that were rapists, murderers, and had done other vile things, but instead hunt them all, only using their crimes to track them. Paladins now want to kill all jumpers for pre-crime because they believe all jumpers are evil and an affront to God and must die. The problem is, the protagonist never really proves them wrong. He uses his powers for grand larceny, breaking and entering, and murder, although the last was in self-defense from religious fanatics. He does this while living the good life with money stolen from banks, and he isn't shown to do a single helpful or constructive thing with his powers. He never helps another person and is only living life for himself. He only reveals his powers to the love interest when he has to, as the paladins are coming to interrogate and kill her, and his stupidity gets them both caught. He's the protagonist. I'm supposed to sympathize with him, but I can't. David is an idiotic jerk, and while it could be argued that since banks are insured and being reimbursed by the government, which is so wasteful with its spending that it's a victimless crime, he doesn't use a penny of his ill-gotten gains to help anyone but himself. Side note, no one in this movie uses guns, and there's no throwaway line on why not, which is kinda dumb, as the hassle of tying jumpers down with electro whips just to taunt them before stabbing them could be solved just by shooting them until they stop jumping. Also, actual gun battles are all about cover, positioning, and line of sight, so a jumper with a gun is the perfect assassin. A jumper under fire could jump right behind a paladin, shoot him, and jump away, or jump 5 feet to the left, or 15 feet above, or any number of angles that modern cover tactics can't cope with. If any of the jumpers used guns, they would win, immediately, which is probably why they don't, but it's just such a huge plot hole that I have to mention it. Seriously, just jump into a gun store, get a shotgun and some ammo. Shotguns have a wide blast radius in movies, unlike real life. So just grab one, teleport spam, shoot the paladins, and you're good. End of story. Back to my point. The hero does absolutely nothing to prove the bad guys wrong, and the only reason it cannot side with the paladins here is their sheer brutality and their willingness to hurt innocents as collateral damage. If they were more professional and didn't hurt those that hadn't committed a crime, then I would totally be on the side of the paladins, and I shouldn't be. So, the movie. The special effects are cool, but I wouldn't buy it unless you're into the idea of teleportation enough to ignore bad writing. There is a game based on the movie. It sucks, that's all I'm gonna say. The action scenes are quite good, and it is an imaginative setting, if not a well thought out one. This movie is a solid rent. This is Lee, publicly speaking, and signing off.